Hello everyone, this is Donnie aka Elevated with Dota Alchemy. Thank you so much for tuning in again today. We've got another video, and this one is of course supported by Secret Lab, who is now supporting Dota Alchemy and helping us grow the channel. So if you are in the market for a brand new gaming chair, maybe you want to get that extra MMR gain from the chair, you know, wink wink. The affiliate link is down below in the description. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump into this video. And this one is actually by request. It's kind of a special one. It's one of our mods on Discord who requested this, one of our most supportive patrons. It is RFX, and he requested that I do a video on game planning and what it means to have a game plan and how to create a game plan for a game in Dota 2. And so this one was kind of interesting because I picked Undying as a support with the intention of playing position 5, but then we had a Rubik and Lich pick directly after me, and that made it so we didn't really have an offlaner. We had somebody who wanted to play anti-mage, we had somebody who wanted to play Shadowfiend mid, but we didn't really have a real 3 position. And so we had 2 people who wanted to play support, so I ended up playing a position 3 Undying, which is generally not that good, but it's something that you will encounter from time to time in your pubs, which is that you pick a hero with the intention of playing in one role, and then you have to switch it up because other people pick other things and have other intentions. So that's the first thing that I wanted to look at here. Is you saw at the very beginning, I was hanging out with just a Stout Shield and 3 Tangos because I'm going to get those regardless of whether I'm playing 5, 4, or 3. And then I waited to see where the other players were going. And when I saw that they decided to tri-lane top, it means that not only am I playing a position 3 Undying, I'm playing a position 3 Undying by myself against an Ursa. So generally not a very good lane, but that's okay. This is part of the game planning aspect. So now I need to come up with a plan of how to deal with this particular situation. And that's the biggest thing about Dota and game planning, and I'm just going to pause it here for a second, is that you can't really just go into a game with a game plan and expect to execute that every single time. Dota is a game where your plan has to shift from moment to moment, honestly, depending on how the lanes are going, depending on what people are itemizing, depending on how your teammates are playing the game. Sometimes you have a carry who just wants to sit in the jungle the entire time and thinks that the safest farm on the map is the only place where he's allowed to farm, and that will completely change the way that you need to approach the rest of the game. So in this case, you know, going into the game expecting to play position 5 Undying, ending up playing position 3 Undying, and not only that, playing it against a very hard lane for a melee hero means that I need to approach the game differently. So you can actually see the first little adaptation that I make here, because I know that because I am a position 3 Undying, because we have an anti-mage, because we have a Shadowfiend, those are the 2 heroes that are going to be doing all of the work. They're going to be hitting buildings, they're going to be killing people in fights, they're going to be doing all the damage, they're going to be putting on the pressure, pushing the waves, all that stuff. So all I really have to do in this game is to keep them alive and make sure that they have a good game by providing sort of like a frontline tankiness to them, and also providing some auras, maybe some saving items. And most importantly, we need to make sure that we're not feeding them. And for me in particular, that means that I need to not be feeding, because Ursa is a hero that snowballs primarily off of hero kills. And frankly, their entire team is a team that snowballs off of hero kills. So if we can avoid feeding, we're probably going to have a pretty good shot at winning this game. So this is the first little adaptation that I make, is that I smoke myself and I take Tombstone at level 1. And you might be like, what are you doing taking Tombstone at level 1? It's a completely terrible ability. It doesn't help you lane at all. But here's the deal. You can actually aggro the creep wave with Tombstone. So I place a Tombstone, and yes, I'm going to feed them 150 gold from the Tombstone. But I'm also going to get the wave under the tower, which means that it is going to immediately push into me under my tower. So I'm trading 150 gold for an opportunity to basically get the wave in my favor immediately, because I know that I am a very, very sacrificial hero at this point in the game, and probably for the whole game for that matter. If you're in a hard lane, your mentality needs to not be, I can somehow outskill this bad matchup for me. Your mentality needs to shift to, I will get what I can, and if I'm not giving them extra golden experience by dying and losing a bunch of golden experience by dying, then I'm actually going to come out of the lane okay, because they're dedicating a lot of resources to shutting you down technically by having such a strong laning stage. And so if this Lion and Ursa stay here the entire laning stage and do not get any kills, I would consider that a win for me, even if the Ursa ends up a higher level with more gold, more experience, more items. This is a relatively low rated game. I stated that at the beginning. So this Lion is not doing anything to pull the creep wave back. And so I know that as long as I can just stay here and get experience and the occasional last hit, this is perfect. If Lion goes to try and pull, then I will be happy to contest the Ursa more. But as long as Lion wants to just stay here and allow the creep waves to continually push into me, I am more than happy just kind of trading with him, staying around experience range. And right here, you can see that he gets a little bit too low. I'm able to drop that tombstone and get a kill. Again, I trade 125 gold for a kill, but obviously that favors me. So you can see that we're 5 minutes into the game, and unfortunately I don't get the runes. That is a mistake on my part. I probably should be sacrificing a couple of these creeps to go get the bounty runes, because it's just a big gold advantage for my entire team. But you can see that at 5 minutes we're up 6-0. This Lion is still down here. I'm level 5, the Ursa's level 4, Lion's level 3. And if we actually switch over to hero levels, you can see that I'm the same level as their mid player. So this is an absolute win for me in the off lane. This is a hero that mostly relies on levels to do stuff. The higher level tombstone you have, the higher level decay you have, the better. And you can see that I actually am maxing out decay here. And to be honest, I think that this is a bit of a mistake, considering that I'm against a mana burn lane, which means I'm not going to be able to cast it very often. Should probably just be maxing out the tombstone just because it's better for team fighting later on. So in this scenario, this is at a point where Ursa is definitely pretty scary for me if I just try to fight him. But what I can do is I can just try and keep the creeps off the tower as much as possible, because Ursa is not a hero that's very good at hitting towers. He mostly does damage to heroes. And so if I can just kind of delay the creeps doing the damage to the tower, then I know that this tower is not going to be pushed by the Ursa anytime soon. So again, I'm kind of just playing this like slow the game down, take up space, kind of absorb harass, absorb pressure from this aggressive hero. The next thing I wanted to look at is itemization, and I'm just going to put this on 2x speed while we watch. In this game, there are a couple main factors that go into picking what items. Number one, what is my role? We've already kind of discussed that I want to be this big, tanky, sort of frontline, absorb a bunch of damage, soak a bunch of damage, allow my Shadow Fiend and Anti-Mage to pick their spots and do their damage in burst in the fights. And that means that I need to be tanky and I need to be survivable. And so if we look at their damage composition, they are 80% magic damage, if not higher. Ursa obviously does quite a bit of physical damage. Wind Ranger can do a decent amount of physical damage, but they are mostly going to be built around magic, at least until like the 20 to 25, 30 minute mark. So that means that I need to pick up magic resistance. You can see that I already have a cloak, which is very good against Necrophos and Lion. I'm going to eventually turn that into either a pipe or a glimmer cape. I know that already. Picking up a bracer just to make myself a little bit more tanky. Again, a little bit of magic resistance from that is great. And then I'm going to pick up a Basilius because I'm dealing with a lot of mana burn here. And I also would like to probably go for a Vlad's because that is just a generally good item for offlaners to pick up and is pretty good against the likes of Ursa and will help, you know, us take Roche and things like that in the future. So in addition to that, I know that we have a Lion that we're playing against, so if I can help my team get more mana, that would be good. Also, just generally speaking, people in pubs tend to not have enough regen or mana regeneration items. People tend to focus mostly on damage, so I'm going to try and make up for that by providing my team with regen in the form of HP and mana, and that's why, you know, Pipe, Vlad's, Guardian Greaves, Arcane Boots are all very, very, very good items to buy in pubs. because it just generally helps your whole team out in addition to helping you out. So I just wanted to show this fight before we skip farther into the game to look at more itemization stuff, because this kind of just illustrates exactly what my job is, which is that I want them to waste spells on me. I want them to utilize all of their damage on me, because that will allow my higher damage dealing heroes like Shadow Fiend and Anti-Mage to actually do their work. So I'm putting myself in a position where they kind of have to go on me to get to the rest of my team. I'm going to drop my Tombstone. I'm very tanky. You can see that I'm not even taking that much damage because we have the cloak, because we've got the extra armor, we've got the magic resistance from the bracer, and they're not that high level because they've been doing a lot of rotating and trying to fight into my lane constantly. And so they're fighting around the Tombstone. We've got quite good team fight in these small enclosed engagements. We're able to build up a bunch of zombie stacks, take a nice fight, trade 4 for nothing. I survive. So here's the next thing that I wanted to talk about, which is that the game is kind of broken open. The laning stage is completely dissolved. And this is where a lot of people, I feel, tend to kind of lose what their purpose is in the game, because everybody kind of understands what they're supposed to be doing in the laning stage. But when it's harder to get vision down, it's harder to push the tier 2s, it's harder to kind of figure out whether you're stronger than the other team or not in 5-on-5s or, you know, smaller engagements. All these things become a little bit more complicated around the 20-minute mark or later on into the game. So at this point, I know that I'm kind of on the verge of falling off, because my hero is one that does very well in the lanes, but then doesn't have the most impact outside of the Tombstone and the ultimate as the game progresses. And that means that I need to rely on items to make up for the fact that my skills don't really do a lot towards the later stages of the game. And that means that I need to actually prioritize getting some items. So you can see that I'm queuing up a Glimmer Cape, because guess what? They are still mostly magic damage. That's going to allow me to bail my Shadow Fiend out, bail my Anti-Mage out, help my team out in these fights. It's going to allow me to survive longer as well. If they all go on me and I'm able to Glimmer myself and walk out, that could be a big win for us. And then after that, I'm going to go for a Force Staff again to allow myself to initiate, jump in and Tombstone, but also to save my team, because this game, as I've stated a number of times now, is all about empowering my Anti-Mage and my Shadow Fiend to do their job. I know that we don't really want to fight right now. If we look at our Anti-Mage, this is not a hero that really looks like he's ready to fight. Our Shadow Fiend, sure, is pretty strong. Our Lich and Rubik are just supports. Rubik does have a blink, but if we look at their general lineup, you know, this is a very strong power spike for the other team. They have the Aegis on Ursa, they've got the Atos and closing in on a mech on their Viper. So we don't really want to fight them right now. And that's why I'm in the bottom lane creating some pressure, because nobody else is doing this. This is what the Anti-Mage should be doing. And this is where another adaptation to game plan needs to come in. This is the Anti-Mage's job right here. But Anti-Mage showed up for a fight in the mid lane and died, which means that this still needs to happen. They should really just be giving up this tier 2. They should be giving up this tier 2. We shouldn't be fighting at this tier 2 in the mid lane, because the chances of us winning the fight are relatively low. And if we do win the fight, we can't get anything out of it. We don't have any creep waves near their towers, except for this one that I am enabling. But if we win a fight here, even if we wipe their whole team, by the time we walk to their base and start hitting their tier 3, they will all be respawned. Roche is off the table. They already have it on their Ursa. So there's literally no reason to take this fight other than just for kills. And as we've talked about many times on this channel, kills are the least important part of Dota when it comes to actually ending the game. So I'm going to just continue to do the job that needs to be done, which is to create some sort of map pressure in this bottom lane. Again, this should be the Anti-Mage that is doing this, but because he's not, I'm going to do it. And you can see that, okay, now they're starting to TP in. This is great. Versus here, I'm able to just run away from him. I'm creating more space for my team. I'm buying some time for our Shadow Fiend to respawn, because if we were to fully commit to this fight in the mid lane and lose it, then there's actually nothing stopping them from just going high ground immediately afterwards. And that is the worst thing that can happen to us right now, because we have a team that is very good later on in the game, but not so good right now. So you can see, okay, I'm going to get caught here. I think I might even go down here, but it doesn't really matter because I've done my job. And I do get out, I pick up the Glimmer Cape, and you can see that there are 3 heroes from the enemy team that have made the trek from our tier 2 tower, pressuring our tier 2 tower, to doing nothing. They're literally doing nothing here in the bottom. There's actually 4 heroes in the bottom lane now. We just saw the 4th one show, and we didn't even lose our tier 2 tower despite losing our Shadow Fiend and our Anti-Mage. So that is the power of split pushing, especially in pubs where people will over-rotate to respond to map pressure. And this is why it's really important to understand that sometimes you need to do a job for your team that somebody else on your team should be doing. And you need to do that even if your team is whining and complaining and crying to you that you're not doing your regular job, which as an Undying is to show up to every fight and fight. But in this instance, it was actually more important that I create some pressure in the bottom lane than it is for me to show up to a fight that we actually probably can't win. So you can see that we were able to get the tier 2 bottom, and they weren't able to get the tier 2 mid, and that's just a result of me reading the game better than the other team. And now we can see that they're kind of starting to split up. Viper is in the top lane, and this is a really important thing to notice because Viper is a huge part of why they're strong right now, because this hero has the buildings of a mech. He has the Rod of Atos. He does the most damage. He is the most tanky on their team. So if he's not there, then a huge part of their power spike is non-existent at the moment. And that means that this might actually be a pretty good opportunity to defend this tower. You can see that Viper is not only the highest level on their team, he is also the most tanky hero on their team. And the rest of their team is really not that strong, but it's when all 5 of them are together that they are stronger than us. And so we take note of the fact that the Viper is top, and I make the call, let's go on them. There's nothing that they can really do to stop us from killing them all at the moment without the Viper there. Fortunately, we don't react quite quickly enough, and they're able to get away. But you can see that it was a pretty easy defense of our tower as long as the Viper's not there. We're in a spot where we can actually start getting aggressive on them. So I'm going to run in here, and you can see again, look at my positioning. I've got 3 heroes focusing me. Meanwhile, the rest of my team is able to focus the Ursa, who's jumping into the backlines like Ursas tend to do. And this is fine. I am more than happy to trade my life for an Ursa, especially once my tombstone is already down on the ground. And you can see that their team, and their disablers in particular, are really not able to get to our backlines, our Rubik and our Lich, because there's just this fat Undying standing in between them and my squishy supports. And because I have my Glimmer Cape, I'm able to kind of run in, take their attention, and then still escape to keep myself in the fight. Our Anti-Mage goes in too aggressively, but we can keep him alive, at least for now. At the same time, we're doing work. We kill the Viper. Ursa's super out of position. Anti-Mage does go down because he's having a pretty rough game. But this engagement has forced a number of buybacks out of their team. And again, we need to keep our Shadow Fiend alive. We have the Glimmer Cape to do so. Obviously, being a lower rated game, invisibility is kind of invincibility. And so SF is able to walk out of here, turn around, get a massive raised turnaround, and get a couple diebacks on both the Lion and the Viper. But that was just all because of how we approached the fight, how we game planned to work as the Undying in this game, which is to stoke a bunch of damage, stoke a bunch of attention, and then make sure that we're able to keep our important cores alive. And to be honest, in this game, our Shadow Fiend is the most important core because our Anti-Mage was not really having the best game himself. And that's another thing about game planning. Sometimes you need to adapt which hero you are giving priority to keep alive, to focus, to heal, that kind of thing. Because sometimes the hero that's supposed to be your win condition won't be having a good game because either the players is not as good or the other team is doing a good job focusing them. And so then maybe you have to give your secondary win condition a little bit more attention. So as far as positioning in these fights, you know, I'm getting kind of low with my mana and HP, but I'm still going to try and just kind of keep myself in range to body the other team away from my Shadow Fiend. I'm able to disarm the Wind Ranger, disarm the Ursa anytime they go on an important hero, and then I have the saves of the Force Staff and the Glimmer Cape as well to keep my team alive. And right there, it's like, okay, I get Reapered, but at the same time, yay, I get Reapered because I'm just an Undying, whereas the Shadow Fiend and the Anti-Mage are the ones that are actually going to be winning us this game here in the long run. So pretty much, that was just my game plan. This is kind of just a first example of what it means to have a game plan and execute a game plan in Dota. And I wanted to just sort of showcase some of the adaptations that I made to the game plan based on what I was seeing on the other side and from my own team as far as their itemization, their play style. So let me know if you like this type of video down in the comment section below. Let me know if you learned something, and we will try and do a couple more of these in the future. Again, shout out to Orifex for the idea and for the support on Patreon, and we will see you in another video very soon. Hello everyone, and thank you for watching the video. We genuinely appreciate your time and attention spent with us here on the YouTube channel.